Entitled parent claws at my face for taking my life-saving medicine on the bus. 'Cause I am a, quote, filthy junkie. Just for reference, this just happened yesterday. I was on the bus heading home from the pharmacy after re-upping my prescription. A bit of backstory. I'm unfortunate enough to be human immunodeficiency virus positive, and because of this I have to take antiretroviral medication every day, otherwise the virus will damage my immune system further. Because of what's been recently going on in this country, I've been mainly working from home. As a result, I've really fallen off when it comes to my appearance. On this particular day, I just had on some really baggy sweatpants and a janky hoodie. So I guess I could see how from a certain perspective I could look a little homeless. After a couple of minutes on the bus, I noticed this little kid staring at me, and I guess my appearance might have frightened him. But as a person of color, I'm kind of used to getting a couple of odd glances, so I just went back to minding my own business. At this point, I started to take my medication while on the bus, mainly because I didn't want to forget later. While this was happening, I got a sharp reminder that people were watching. Cue the entitled parent of scared kid screaming at me, "How dare you? Have you people no shame?" I was so shocked that all I could say was, "What?" She continued by yelling, "What do you mean what? Who do you think you are? Stop popping pills in front of my kid in a public place, you filthy junkie." At this point, I start getting mad. I held up the bottle and tried to explain that it wasn't what she thought it was, but before I could finish explaining, she tried to snatch it while shrieking about how I'm a leech to society and how if I was raised right and had real parents, I wouldn't be a, quote, disgusting addict. That last one made me pretty mad because both my parents work really hard and are both wonderful people. So I kind of lost it. What the frick would you know about parenting? The day your kid moves out will be the happiest day of his life. After I said that, she completely forgot about the medication and just straight up launched herself at me on some Superman crap and started clawing at my face. So boom, at this point entitled parent and I had the attention of pretty much the entire bus, including the bus driver. Luckily, we soon came to a stop and the driver helped remove her and her kid from the bus, but not before she yelled some questionable stuff on her way out. Yikes. You people. I think this lady just outed herself pretty hard. That's one heck of an assumption to just make about someone in public, and she really needs to check why she leapt to all these assumptions about the guy's parents as well. Has she had this tirade at every diabetic person she saw taking an insulin shot too? And her instantly leaping into the offensive the second the focus was turned onto her speaks volumes about how stable a person she is. Sounds like she's the one who has no shame to be causing this kind of commotion in public about something she was clearly completely uninformed about. If the bus had camera footage, you probably would have had grounds for pressing charges of assault and battery, if nothing else. A few of my videos lately have featured mothers flying off the handlebars, supposedly to protect their kids from, quote, bad examples like yourself, and the level of responsibility they try to take on themselves in seizing contraband like this is breathtaking. Just how dull is your life that this is a thing that occupies your mind? Steal from me? I'll ruin your career. This was about 2 years ago in college. I just moved into a house off campus with 3 of my closest friends. There were 2 other college guys already living there. All of these guys were doing Air Force Reserves with me. Basically, you go into the military after you graduate. I really liked all of my roommates and the house, except for one of the dudes that was already living there. He had a dog that would constantly rip up, pee, crap on the carpet, and he wouldn't clean it up. Furthermore, he'd yell at us for leaving dirty dishes in the sink, while he was the one making the vast majority of the mess. I had a job working 30 hours a week and doing school full-time and doing Reserve Officer Training Corps. My job was as a server, so I'd make quite a lot of tips, like $300 a week. I'd leave the cash in my room, boxed up, because I trusted everyone in the house. We were all going to join the military, and integrity is a big thing. So I went on to deposit my tips in the bank after not going for about a month, and I was shocked when my cash deposit was only about $200 when I knew it had to be at least $1,200. I knew someone was stealing my tips then because it made sense, because my deposits seemed a little low for a while. I was furious because I was barely scraping by working my butt off to pay for college. So I bought a security camera for my room and hid it. I got all the documents from my work regarding the tips I'd made over the past few months, and I continued leaving my tips in the box unconcealed as bait. I didn't tell any of my roommates about this. Sure enough, I leave for a trip and I got a notification on my phone. I watch as this motherfricker that I trusted steals about $300 in cash from me, taking only $20 bills so I wouldn't notice. Well, the next day back from the trip, I schedule a meeting with our commander. I bring him all the evidence and video footage and tell him about my awful experiences with him in my house, with my other roommates as witnesses. Long story shorter, he got kicked out of the Reserve Officer Training Corps, and I ruined his career. He had to pay me back about $1,000, and I let him off easy, by the way, and he had to pay the military back about $9,000. He'd been getting paid by them for about a year. In addition, we go to an expensive school and he chose a useless major, so he's stacked high in student debt with no real way out. And finally, he had just quit his job because he thought he could get away with stealing from me and watching TV at home. And he just crashed his dream car he'd been working on for a while because he drives like an idiot. Surprise! I still see him every so often on campus and I smile at him. In short, jerk roommate steals my tips and I ended his whole career. Did I go too far? You're not a jerk. I'd say I'd definitely worry about your safety if that guy is just walking around out there and seems to have as few scruples as you describe with doing crappy stuff. If his situation is as desperate as you've made it out to be, and he thinks that you and your flatmates are to blame, you might want to move or something. Still, you were definitely right to turn him in some capacity. He sounds like the worst kind of hypocritical flatmate aside from just kind of being a scumbag who's content to casually steal people's money without contemplating that they might notice that the occasional grand has gone missing. In fact, his complacence is rather breathtaking to the point where he was just okay stacking himself with debt and thinking he could just have his combination of military service and theft go ahead without a hitch. I thought it was a little humorous that you could go to your military commander like they were some kind of school dean, but then again, if this kind of thing happened in a full-time barracks, you would do the same kind of thing for your CO as well. Thanks for reminding the rest of us to make direct bank deposits with our cash payouts, or at the very least, to invest in a metal lockbox. Since you want to judge me for riding up to the second floor, have fun waiting for the elevator. I was waiting at the elevators. It didn't take too long since my apartment building is not that big. I get inside and right when the door closes, a hand pushes through. She looked like your typical middle-aged Karen. She presses the 17th floor, and she takes one look at my floor, which was on the second. She scoffs, glares at me, and said, "The second floor? Really?" It didn't take too much to tee me off. Her comment was so unnecessary and uncalled for. Who cares if it was the second floor? It's my decision whether to take the stairs or not. I just finished an overnight shift and I was exhausted. I guess my exhaustion made me extra moody, because when I reached my floor, she was scrolling through her phone. I quickly ran my hand over as many buttons as I could and said, "Have fun, B-word," right when the door closed. And because I was extra exhausted, therefore extra moody and petty, I pressed the up button when the elevator barely reached the third floor, so I could use the other elevator and press a bunch of buttons again to further inconvenience her just in case she decided to get off on the third floor to take the other elevator. Take the stairs then if it's not that big a deal for you, Karen. Just don't be fricking rude to your neighbors for riding elevators to the second floor. You don't know if they're exhausted or if they have non-visible health conditions that make it hard for them to take the stairs. Look, lady, I get it. I too am one of the psychopaths who flogs themselves unnecessarily up staircases in the vain hope that my tiny little saving of energy will one day save the planet, while I work for 10 hours a day from my high-powered computer. And yeah, from time to time I'll judge someone else for taking a lift up one floor, but I'll do that silently in my head. Because that's how you avoid people taking punitive measures against you for being a jerk. And she is a jerk for the reasons the author outlines. We're all technically allowed to make this kind of witchy judgment, and almost all of us do every day. We just need to keep them to ourselves because acting on them is what makes you the topic of one of these videos. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Entitled step-grandma ruins my graduation party because I didn't share the attention with my sisters. As a background, I have an amazing mother and father who never married and a bit of a jerk stepdad. I tolerate him because he's family, and although we disagree on a lot of crap, it's at least a long-term relationship. He had 2 daughters with my mother, Emily and Nicole, and they visit their grandmother often. We talk once in a while, but not very much for various reasons, including her entitled attitude, hence my own attitude towards the story you're about to hear. She just thinks that her granddaughters deserve the world and hates me for not being her direct spawn. She can't stand the thought that her son has to live with me, a scum who isn't in her bloodline. This happened almost exactly a year ago. 2 weeks before graduation party, my mum said, "Hey V, just wanted to rant your ear off a bit. So apparently step-grandma invited herself over to stay the night for graduation." I said, "What? But we've already got like 5 other family members staying the night. I'm already getting kicked out of my own bed for 2 weeks because of family. I'm already going to have to sleep on the floor. Can't you tell her to wait until the day after?" She says, "I know and I'm sorry. She's acting like she's the only out-of-town visitor staying the night. You know she won't take no for an answer." Ugh, fine. As long as she doesn't try anything, I suppose I'll be fine for one night. I know my attitude was crappy, but I know the entitled lady well, and I was also already in a bit of a bad mood. Plus, I hardly talked to step-Grammy, so I was a little annoyed with the idea of staying here for the night. I reluctantly dropped the subject and continued making plans for my graduation party. The night before the party, Granny arrives. "Hello, dearies, here's your graduation presents," and hands out Barbie toys to my 2 sisters. Keep in mind though, although Emily is graduating to junior high, Nicole is only moving up a grade. And she doesn't give me a present or any money. I said, "Hey Grammy, I'm laying out the spare air mattress for you. There's food in the fridge, but please keep out of the containers with post-it notes on them. That's for the party tomorrow." She doesn't respond and goes into the kitchen while my half-sisters play with their new Barbies. I went to bed since I knew that I, an extreme introvert, would need as much energy as possible for the next day. I really fricking regret it. Party day comes around, my family members are shouting congratulations, and my mum says, "Let's bring out the cake." When the cake is put on the table, step-Grammy proceeds to take the knife and starts cutting a slice. I say, "Excuse me, I'd like the first slice of my graduation cake." "No, you've got to choose the design, so it's only fair that the little ones get the first slices." My mum has had enough of this behavior and goes on a rant about how this is my party and if Grammy doesn't give her the knife, she'd kick her out. She was not pleased with this and screams about how I was an attention hoarder and how I wasn't giving the other children their share of the attention. She screams that the other children deserve the same treatment because they're, quote, graduating too. Emily starts crying over the fact that she isn't getting any cake. Full-blown tantrum. Keep in mind, she's almost a freaking teenager. She knew full well that she'd get some cake in like a minute. The other family members are staring and embarrassed. Nobody comes in to help because in all the passionate conversation, Grammy is waving the knife around like a freaking idiot. After what felt like an hour of arguing, Mum decides that the argument was going nowhere, snatched the knife from Gram's dumb idiot hand, and gave me my well-earned chocolate cake slice with sprinkles, whilst Grammy tried to snatch the knife back. It tasted like a slice from heaven itself. Once I got my slice, I was stupid enough to turn around and walk back to my seat. Grammy was so obsessed with my piece of cake that she raced up behind me and smacks the plate clean out of my hand. She then stormed off, leaving a crowd of stunned people. I was almost in tears due to her bullcrap. After a moment of pure silence, Mum came over and hugged me and gave me the next slice. Nicole sat next to me and tried to cheer me up, but it was no use. I was still polite to the other family members, but my day was ruined. I was extremely grateful for them coming to the party and giving me presents and graduation money, but Graham's actions really hurt my feelings. The next few hours felt like forever. I'll admit I was kind of a wimp when it came to my feelings getting hurt, but man, I was hella excited for that piece of cake. But wait, there's more. After most of the other family members left, it was just me, my immediate family, 4 other very close relatives, and Grammy. I left the party for a bit of well-earned me time and decided to eat some of my copycat Starbucks iced lemon pound cake. When I looked around the fridge, I couldn't find it anywhere. I was hysterical. I admittedly started ugly crying over that crap. I was in denial. There was no way Grammy ate an entire frickin' cake. I was, surprisingly, partially correct. I found a single small slice of it left in the very back with a post-it note with the writing of Grammy on it. I was furious. So mad that I forgot how fricking hungry I was. Confronting her was much more important. I confronted her and she said that since I didn't give her any of the graduation cake, she, Emily, and Nicole ate the cake that was in the fridge. After all, they deserved a cake just like me. They didn't share with any of the other family members. I was heartbroken. I felt defeated. After she left, I cried in my room for about an hour. Mum walked in, red as a fire truck, and said, "Did you eat all the fricking lemon cake without us?" No. Grammy, Emily, and Nicole ate it all. Mum's face went white and then flushed with embarrassment. "Oh my God, are you serious? I'm so sorry, I had no idea. I wanted to bring it out, but we couldn't find it. I thought maybe you ate it all." "No, I didn't get a single slice." "Oh, honey. Well, I don't know if it'll make you feel better, but there is one slice left with Grammy's name on it. She forgot to take it home. It's your cake, you should have it." "Really? Yes, please." I raced into the kitchen and scarfed down my lemon cake slice. Nicole later came in and apologized. Apparently, Grammy said that I let them have the cake. Emily still won't admit to eating it, but the whole ordeal was awful. If only Grammy wasn't so damn entitled, maybe this could have all gone better. Sorry, no happy ending. I still refuse to forgive her. I still have to talk to her and visit for her for the holidays, but I've moved on. And I definitely won't let my pushover parents make the guest list for my parties anymore. All guests need to be approved by me when it comes to my parties. Still, I'm a bit crappy over my graduation. The old hag hasn't seen me in about a year, but she also hasn't been invited places as much as usual. So it's nice that the family is sort of avenging me. Oh my God, what an awful woman. Well, the good news is that I'm not sure that anyone apart from her would possibly ever conceive that literally anyone else but Grammy was to blame. Can you imagine coming to a party and bringing a gift for the two siblings of the person whom the party was in honor of, but not the person themselves? Breathtakingly obvious snub from the old witch. I'd say that in the long run, not being too aggressive in response might have actually helped you. You only looked better in the face of her awfulness in front of the rest of the family, and with any luck, they'll pick you over her anytime there's a family get-together. It sounds like she's pretty miserable as is, so moving on and leaving her to gradually isolate herself with her own behavior while you thrive might be your greatest chance at victory. Of course, there's the very slim ghost of a chance that she'll change her ways one day and apologize for being such a monster, but let's not wait in vain for that to happen. Hopefully Emily will eventually grow out of her example. It sounds like we can put a little bit of her selfishness down to childishness and being given the opportunity of cake at a party. And hopefully she'll see what the rest of your family are doing to Grandma and take some notes on how not to behave. Tell your boss you're quitting. This isn't my story, but my mother's. She died recently at the age of 89, and my sister and I were reminiscing. This is one of our favorite stories involving our mother. My brothers called her V because her first name begins with a V, so I'll refer to her as V as well. This happened many years ago, about the time I graduated from high school. V had taken a job, her first since she and Dad got married, in a public kindergarten. Now, my dad was always a bit of a bully, especially towards my mother. My dad was not a nice person, and that's a whole story in itself. V had survived ovarian cancer at the age of 33, so she was probably around 38 or 39 when this happened. Now, my dad insisted that if she was going to hold down a job, she still had to do all of her chores when she got home. The cooking, cleaning, and laundry, among other things. I can't remember exactly what prompted the argument about her chores, but something didn't get done one day that he expected, and he demanded she do it. He informed her that she would tell her boss that she was quitting when she went back to work the next day. Before he left for work the next day, he reminded her that she was to tell her boss that she was quitting. Cue malicious compliance. I loved my mum. She went to work that morning, stopped at her boss's office and said these exact words. "My husband said to tell you that I was quitting," and then moseyed on to her classroom. A few minutes later, her very puzzled boss popped in and asked her if she was serious. She said, "No, but my husband told me to tell you I was quitting, so I did." And no, she didn't quit her job until she was good and ready several years later. Eventually, she quit working for that awful man in her own household. She stayed with him for financial security only. When he left her for the second affair partner, he left her destitute. For the first time in her life, she had to accept food stamps because she still had a child at home. Dad returned home in 1980 and just dumped all of his stuff in the living room, went to their bedroom, and moved right on in. She dumped his stuff into the bedroom and moved into the living room couch herself. That's where she lived until she died. She never spent another night in their bedroom. What a gross man. Sadly, it seems like she was inclined or forced to stay in the same household as him for the rest of their life. I don't know whether that's incredibly sad, a really brave act of defiance, or both. She almost certainly deserved better than living with a cheating, paranoid chauvinist. Still, she raised a family, and the author at least seems to have had nothing but admiration for her. I hope her and her kids at least had a good relationship. Screw that dad. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.